Okay, great. So thank you for inviting Toro to present at your webinar today. Have you got the presentation up? Yep, great. So if you could turn the page. So that's our disclaimer, next page. So this page gives you a great précis of what Toro has in its energy portfolio. We've had the Wiluna uranium project for some time now, which is 62.7 million pounds of U3O8 and 68 million pounds of vanadium pentoxide spread across 3 deposits, Lake Way, Lake Maitland, and Centipede Millipede. All of our ground in Toro was staked or pegged for uranium, but because it's in a prolific gold mining district, in the bearish years for uranium, we explored for minerals other than uranium. And our Dusty Nickel project has come up trumps. We've made 4 ore-grade discoveries in different locations of massive or semi-massive nickel sulfide. Similarly, we have, because it's a mature gold district, we've also got gold potential on the ground that is contiguous to Dusty and even on Dusty itself, which we didn't explore heavily. Once we made an early nickel discovery, we focused on that. We also have a uranium exploration portfolio of 28.2 million pounds across 3 projects in WA, 2 of which, Dawson, Hinkler and now Thanner, are proximal to the Wiluna uranium project. And we also have a joint venture interest in Namibia with Deep Yellow and Jogmek. Again, the tenements are in world-class locations near operating mines or about to be operating mines. Next page. So Toro has a market cap of 53 million, which we think is very low, and hopefully you can see that by the end of this presentation. Our board and management are quite experienced in uranium. We've either got over 20 years experience, including myself, or 10 years experience in executive and non-executive responsibilities with uranium. For example, I've had responsibility for Lake Maitland, either executive or non-executive, for almost 20 years. Next page. So all up, we have 90.9 million pounds of uranium, 68 million pounds of vanadium pentoxide. We do have environmental approvals which need to be reinvigorated and amended when the government policy in WA changes. And we are currently undertaking studies into our uranium to optimise Wiluna. Lake Maitland, one of the 3 deposits making up Wiluna, has a joint venture hanging off it with Japanese parties, which include a Tochu and a syndicate of nuclear power facilities. And I'll explain that in a minute. So we conducted a scoping study on Lake Maitland alone. So just Lake Maitland, not any other uranium deposit we owned. And the results were quite stunning, with a NPV of 610 million before tax. And we achieved lower OPEX and CAPEX, which again, I'll explain in a minute. Again, Dusty Nickel project is in close proximity to BHP's Mount Keith and to Bronzewing's mine as well. And we're very lightly explored when it comes to nickel. We've still got a lot of ultramafic rock to test. Next page. I'm not going to labour on the uranium sector overview. I think my predecessors today have done a great job explaining what a buoyant and great market we're in and where we're going in the future with uranium. Clearly, we are on an upward trajectory and it looks like it's a sustainable one. Next page. Next page. So Wiluna. So on the map there, you can see Lake Way and then Millipede Centipede. Together, we consider that one deposit. And to the southeast, you'll see Lake Maitland. So, as I said, we're at Wiluna, which is 700 kilometres northeast of Perth. The project itself is near established infrastructure. We've got 62.7 million pounds of resource that make up the production profile, and the vast majority of that, almost 100% of that, is in measured and indicated category. The deposit is shallow. Most of it is 10 meters or less. In some areas, it goes up to 15 meters. And again, Lake Maitland only has a joint venture party where the Japanese interests can acquire 35% of Lake Maitland for $39.6 million US dollars. Next page. So in the bearish years for uranium, we did a lot of research and development work and trialing various different ways of optimizing our project and getting a better flow sheet. At lab scale level, we were quite successful, and we reran a Lake Maitland pit optimization. So Lake Maitland only, because we have Japanese joint venture partners only on that, and because Lake Maitland is clay dominant and most amenable to any optimization through beneficiation. So doing a pit optimization, effectively you see that map or the diagram on the page where previously we were only going to mine the red colored areas. With the pit optimization, we are now going to mine both the red and the green colored areas. So essentially the pit rim cutoff grade has lowered. The potential ore has gone up almost 200%. Importantly, uranium production has increased by 7 million pounds. The life of mine's gone up from 10 to 17.5 years, and we can now extract cheaply red flake, vanadium pentoxide red flake, because we are now using an ion exchange. Next page. So that tells you the various increases in Lake Maitland from our own internal work about 10 years ago. There's a transformational effect on Lake Maitland. Next page, please. So we ran a scoping study to take into account the revised processing flow sheet from our years and years of research and development work. And again, because Lake Maitland is clay dominant and most amenable to the beneficiation, we just did a Lake Maitland standalone scoping study, which delivered a 610 million pre-tax NPV, a 2.5-year payback, EBITDA of 1.7 million over the life of the project, and an average EBITDA per annum of 100 million. So every week we potentially will generate $2 million of EBITDA. The capex came in at 270 million Aussie or 189 million US, and that includes 20% contingency and 15% for EPCM. The life of mine C1 cost was an excellent $23 a pound, and the life of mine all-in sustaining cost is a very, very, very good number at $28 US per pound of U3O8. And all of this was done on the basis of a $70 uranium price and a $5.67 vanadium price, both in US, and an Australian exchange rate of 70 cents. Next page. So this was the sensitivity analysis we did. The base case is scenario 1. We are now closer to scenario 2 because of the current exchange rate. And you can see that just on an exchange rate being 65 cents as opposed to 70 cents, which is what our base case was, we've got an extra 70 million in NPV. So one of the work streams that I hope to release shortly is that we will refresh our Lake Maitland only scoping study to update it with more current numbers to see what increase in value we get. And we think, obviously, it'll be an outstanding result. Next page. Again, this is just a summary of all of the excellent and robust financial outcomes of the scoping study. And we will produce 22.8 million pounds of U3O8 out of Lake Maitland only over the life of mine. and 12 million pounds of vanadium pentoxide. So we're averaging 1.3 million pounds of uranium and 0.7 million pounds of vanadium per year. Next page. So I'll gloss over that page, so we'll move to the next one. So because of the clay dominant nature of Lake Maitland, we found that by beneficiation, so screening and cycloning, right, we remove the low-grade coarse and the low-grade fines, and we get a beneficiated product, which is 1/4 of the original size, over 3 times the U3O8 grade, and has a recovery of 84%. We undertook this study over many years. Next page. So the beneficiation step of screening and cycloning, so desliming, that makes your leach feed now, when all of the clays are gone, amenable to filtration. That means we can wash the leach feed and remove the deleterious salts, the gypsum, the celestine, and have a product that, because of the removal of those elements, you use much lower reagents, you use much reduced in size leach tanks, and most importantly, because the chloride's not there, you can go to an ion exchange. Next page. So as a result, this is the flow sheet that we are going to pilot this year. We're very happy with the result. Next page. And because of this beneficiation and filtration step, the removal of the chlorides, the salts, everything becomes lower in size. So from the environmental footprint, it's a much lower environmental footprint. The CapEx has been reduced by about 60 million from our last time we had a look at this for the whole of project. The OpEx is significantly lower. It's a mind-blowingly lower number. And because of the beneficiation and the filtration, we can use ion exchange, which means we can get out the vanadium very easily via so it reports to a separate stream, and now we've got a valuable byproduct. We're not in a rush to sell the vanadium. It doesn't make or break the Lake Maitland project. So we can stockpile it and sell it for when it's a decent price. We assumed in our studies a $5.67 US price, but we think we can realize more for that as we go along. So as I said, everything is smaller. The leach tanks could even fit in your backyard garage, I've been told. So on the uranium front, what we're currently doing is a study to incorporate materials from Lake Way and Centipede Millipede into our Lake Maitland processing operation. So all of Wiluna, we're looking to see how we can mine all of Wiluna, not just one. So again, work is progressing well, as you saw by a release this morning. And we think there's another transformational effect on the value of our project coming with that study. In addition, we're going to rerun Lake Maitland in a Lake Maitland only scenario where we have a joint venture partner at a higher uranium price and more realistic exchange rates and costings, or updated ones. If I could get you to turn to the next page. So Dusty, we've made 4 discoveries of massive or semi-massive nickel sulfide. Some of these discoveries are actually on Lake Maitland. So next page. So there's a diagram for you to see. So next page. You'll see some of the results we're getting, 9 meters at 2% nickel, including 2 meters at 4%. This is all massive or semi-massive. 2 meters at 3.5%. We're getting at dimmer over the page. We're getting 4 meters at 1.16%, 3 meters at 1.4%. So these are all grade discoveries. And because of this potential, we're probably going to look at breaking up the company and demerging the nickel from the uranium. Next page. So again, we also have a very good gold project that we haven't aggressively explored due to the fact that our nickel exploration superseded in priorities, given the early success we had. Next page, please. So what are the opportunities here? Well, with the study we're doing now, the Lake Maitland extension study to include Lakeway and Centipede, we think we're going to get a vastly increased mine life, production and revenue. Like there's 36 million pounds of resource at 200 ppm cutoff in Lakeway and Centipede. And we've only evaluated Lake Maitland standalone. That alone got us 610 million. So the potential to truck materials down and process it at Lake Maitland is something that we are considering right now, and looking to see what sort of number we get and what kind of cost efficiencies we can get. We also have an exploration project in Theseus is the leading one that we could turn our attention to this year and potentially explore. We're also going to do a pilot program to test the beneficiation circuit for all of our uranium deposits in the Wiluna Uranium Project, so Lakeway, Centipede and Millipede. That will, again, give us a great knowledge as to how we can maximise this project and increase it way beyond the 610 million NPV that we got just on the one project alone. So the fact we've only looked at one of three and the other two deposits are very substantial in terms of uranium inventory should give any potential investor and our current shareholders a lot of optimism as to what could be possible for Toro moving forward, and increasing the value of Wiluna. Again, we think it's going to be a much simpler, lower environmental footprint operation that'll please the environmentalists, and we will have less tailings because we're mining more of it. So if you could turn to the next page. The continuing optimization at Wiluna, the pilot plant work, perhaps we do some uranium exploration drilling and some more nickel drilling before we spin these assets out, sets us up very well for at least the next 12 months in terms of news flow, which will make a big difference to the value of our project. We obviously need to go back and look at our environmental approvals and see how they need to be amended. One of the potential amendments is relocating the process plant to Lake Maitland, given the more favourable economics. So we've spent the last 8-9 years basically with the sole purpose of improving the value of our Wiluna uranium project, and we look forward to demonstrating that further in the next 12 months. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Richard. A great presentation. As you and I both know, we've both had an association with each other, but also with the Lake Maitland project in particular for some time. Clearly a world-class project, and you've added significant value to it over a long period of time, and a path to further refine and optimize and provide greater financial outputs with that project. Just talk us through the environmental approvals process. Obviously, needs to be refreshed. You talked about moving aspects to Lake Maitland to provide more favourable environmental outcomes. How do those discussions occur with the relevant departments, and how confident are you on those outcomes?
Yeah, so I should say that this project, all of Wiluna, was permitted in 2017. So we're not talking about, when Gough Whitlam was the Prime Minister, these projects were permitted. We're talking as recently as 6-7 years ago that this project was approved by both state and federal government. Obviously, ideology has changed here, but we think that the current conversation around nuclear and the current conversation in WA around burying nuclear waste from the submarines and for medicinal purposes across Australia, WA becoming the backyard, whether it's on Garden Island, whether it's on mainland, is going to turn the attention to why are we not allowing the uranium exploration industry to come online here in Western Australia. The fact that the price is moving up now into triple digits places more pressure on the government, more than just me and my peers here going to the government, and we will go to the government very shortly as an industry, so unified amongst the uranium players here. We think that'll put pressure on the government, because previously they could say no and it would have no practical effect because no one's bringing a mine into production at $40 a pound U3O8. But now that we've got what looks like a sustainable higher price environment for uranium, that is what's going to put pressure on the government to reevaluate why they should just keep saying no. But we will have those discussions, but doing it respectfully, not putting the government in a very awkward position. I think they're already in an awkward position due to the market fundamentals. Yes, so we will approach them as an industry, and the plan's already underway to do that.
Oh, and look, you know, the elephant in the room, if you like, is the re-rating of the company is linked in a lot of respects to that change in view. But as you say, the uranium price and the credibility of the companies to bring a project to market, not just to explore, is something that the market is clearly watching and clearly hoping for a positive outcome. So, Richard, I know you've stayed the course over a long period of time. You've continued to add value to the projects. You've continued to do it in a proactive but respectful way, and I've got no doubt that as the discussions become more strategic and more proactive, there'll be opportunities ahead. So we thank you for your presentation, and as I said, I will bring you back shortly to join a panel with Guy and have a more macro conversation. But thanks for your presentation, and we look forward to following with interest.
Thank you very much.